In this video, I'm gonna talk about Sundered Eldritch Edition. Eldritch Edition means only that the game finally came out of second early access the same way a Hobbit makes it past second winter. It sounds offensive on an objective level, but there is a fair distinction to be made between when a game is a minimum viable product and when it is an accomplished realization of the developer's vision. We are firmly dealing with Outcome 2. All of the bonus parts have been installed, and on the 7th day, the developer went straight to bed. The story begins with you walking around before being inexplicably pulled into the dungeon and introduced to the shining Trebisahedron. I do not remember the reason why you ended up here, so I am going to cop it out by saying, this is Lovecraftian horror, we do not need to explain shit. Either way, you are given a melee weapon and sent out to explore the place and kill whatever squishy creature you find. You thus get to navigate a world that is fixed in layout, but constantly changing in the details. It means that bits and pieces are assembled together on each of your runs, so that the layout of walls and platforms is never the same twice, and the path from one area to the next can be straightforward or convoluted depending on your luck. Bizarrely, the game claims that you can explore any part of the world at any time, but tell that to the countless beef gates that stand in your way whenever exploring a new area. In reality, you are meant to go down, left, and then right in that order. Controls show up in the form of an attack button, a jump button, a dash button, a map button, a potion button, and a cannon button, the latter of which becomes available early on. It is not a fancy control layout, but the ways to move around and string attacks becomes increasingly useful in the long run, namely that air attacks reset your double jump. This will be expected of you in a handful of sequences where you have to cross over a bottomless pit. All of the appeal is in the atmosphere and the feeling of dread brought on by the quiet and ominous background music and the hand-drawn art direction. Particle effects do exist, but the great majority of the artwork has a half-cartoon and half-realism feel to it that lacks in sheer stylistic exaggeration, but has the merit of being easy to make out. You will definitely know what part of the screen contains an enemy, what with its way of sticking out, and its oftentimes horrifying anatomy. Where it comes to making out what is more dangerous than something else, it is a learning process more than anything else, with the stronger enemies generally being bigger and meaner looking, and higher damaging versions of common mobs simply showing up with an angrier color scheme. Boss weak points are all identified by a purple jewel sticking out of them. You will inevitably meet your demise as you wander into the tougher segments, but have no fear, death is a soft caress on the wrist, and there is a progression system. Money acquired along the way can be spent into upgrading your abilities to such an extent that you can brute force your way through a boss with ease by way of sheer perseverance, at least if playing on normal difficulty. In addition, you can get access to a perk system, in which most perks alter some of your statistics or give out minor bonuses. These perks can be leveled up to accomplish more drastic effects. Because of the random placements of platforms and walls, it is impossible to put enemies in any sort of predictable location. The world seems fairly quiet until you get hit by one of the countless hordes of enemies, forcing you to suddenly battle well over 36 foes at the same time, in which you can no longer make out where you are on the screen anymore. You may be interested to know that some special areas instantly provoke a horde until you leave the premises, so if you suspect you are in one such place, keep running. Put all of this together and a typical run through the game will keep you occupied for about 20 hours. Replay value comes in doing it all over again on a different difficulty level, spending some extra time to max out all of your abilities and perks, or unlocking a different ending. The latter requires you to start over from scratch, but the path to each ending sends your character progression in two different directions, changing some of your gameplay mechanics. The average Metroidvania purist will cry blasphemy over the random elements of the game, the horde system, and the fact that doing a deathless run is largely possible only for Korean StarCraft players. The randomness and the temper are to be embraced, and you are meant to roll with the punches that come at you. Not every situation will be fair, and you will occasionally suffer for bullshit reasons that are outside of your control, Such is the nature of the beast. You will come back stronger and gain the upper hand next time. The only overt fault is that all of those quirks and features become apparent only through gameplay and not necessarily in trailers or the description. The game is sold as a procedurally generated Metroidvania, and the exact words procedurally generated Metroidvania bring out terrible imagery of the worst of both worlds. In reality, the random parts are so minor that the game is hardly procedurally generated, but they are major enough that it is not a by-the-book Metroidvania either, so the end result is like trying to please the Christians and the Muslims at the same time and offending them both in the process. Really, the devil and the pitfall are in the advertisement versus the actual gameplay. There is no hundreds of upgrades, there are a handful repeated 24 times over a piece. There are no multiple character builds, there are 2. So calm your tits. The mix of handcrafted and procedural levels is exact if you bothered to read the one footnote. There is local co-op indeed, but I have not tested it, as I have no friends aside from my left hand. The point of friction is not the game itself, nor how it is made, nor how it plays. In fact, from a cold start, it is perfectly enjoyable and it brings its fair share of highs and lows, its moment of boredom and instance of sheer terror. The problem is how to make such a game attractive to prospective buyers. How to entice a potential customer to purchase this without giving the punchline away. This is where the marketing team shows up with its traditional bag of lies and bullshit. And then it feels like the game is forever apologizing for this necessary evil. In short, this game is Sonnet number 34.